Testing. What is this? What are we doing?
There's an issue, I guess, with the laptop or
It
something.
is Valentine's Day. I'd like to get through this if we can.
So, well, this is wireless, isn't it, Lou?
Yeah, well, it's not letting his system connect. And this one, the keyboard's not working. That's our.
Yeah.
Well, someone probably locked the keyboard. There's something you do on the pad that makes it lock the keyboard.
Yeah, Dennis used that Tuesday night, right? Last Tuesday.
Why do we need all that anyway? What are we doing?
I think Lou's going to get a keyboard. Is that what he's going to? He's trying one more thing before we. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. Are we good over there? Okay. Let me know when you're all set up.
go. There's got to be stuff we can do in this application
Well, I
or
don't-
this PowerPoint,
Okay.
right?
Are we on? Are we live? Okay. Call the meeting to order, please. Everybody, please turn your phones off. In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided. If any member has reason to believe this meeting is being held in violation of this act, they should state so at this time. The Pledge of Allegiance.
Mr., are you ready? Mr. Bizarre? I'm going to do roll call. Is that okay? Mr.
Do the roll call.
Okay. Mr. Bizarre? Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Belasco?
Here.
Mr. Crowley? Mr. Gorgone?
Here.
Mayor Mullick? Councilmember Yeager?
Here.
Mrs. Reed?
Here.
Mr. Lundholm?
Here.
Mr. Malloy?
Here.
Mr. Paducis?
Here.
Thank you.
We have the minutes of the meeting of January 24th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Thank you. Motion by Mr. Gorgone, seconded by Mr. Belasco. Mr. Belasco?
Yes.
Mr. Gorgone?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Abstain.
Mr. Lundholm?
Abstain.
Mr. Malloy?
Yes.
Mr. Paducis?
Yes.
Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Thank you.
We have one application for this evening. It's Addis, Inc. It's 1317 Beach Avenue. It's block 1146, lots 10, 6, 7, and 11 through 24. Mr. Galzunas, it's all yours.
Mr. Chairman, board members, thank you. Good evening. Ron Gelzunas, appearing on behalf of Adis, Inc. That is the owner of the Lemaire Beachfront Resort. The proposal this evening is to seek preliminary and final amended site plan approval to renovate the pool and restaurant patio area. Renovations will include the reconstruction of the pool and a covered restaurant patio. The applicant has taken great care to ensure that the proposed renovations do not trigger any variance requirements. The applicant has also taken the opportunity to obtain a new survey to ensure that the existing conditions on the site are accurately reflected on the plans, and that the approved and amended site plan, the proposed renovations, and all of the calculations and measurements contained in it will be accurately reflected on the plan. Some key points you'll hear me and our other professionals reiterate this evening is that the scope of the project. It's limited to the pool and patio area. It does not involve any changes or alterations to the site. Other than that, no new guest rooms are proposed. The total number of seats in the existing restaurant will remain the same at 146. So we have several witnesses this evening. To my right is Mr. Richard Garber. He is our architect from GRO Architects. Junetta Dix behind me, our environmental consultant, CAFRA expert from ACT Engineers. She'll be providing testimony concerning the CAFRA application. Also, as well known to you, Mr. Andy Schaefer, our engineer from Schaefer, Nasser, and Sheedig. George Andy is also here, the principal of Adis, Inc., as well as the general manager of Lamar, Francesco Santoro. So if we can have our professionals sworn in.
Galzunas, are any of the clients going to testify or just with questions?
I don't think so, but if we need them, we could swear them in.
Okay, whoever's testifying, please raise your right hand. Do each of you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The clients also were sworn in, and our board engineer also.
Very good, very good. Mr. Garber, if you would kindly take us through your presentation.
Sure. And thank you very much for seeing us tonight. So we're very excited about this first phase, this work that we're doing, which largely, as Mr. Galzunas said, it really deals with outdoor, primarily exterior work, with the exception of a modest extension of an indoor-outdoor portion of the restaurant. I'll take you through those plans. In terms of our coverage and these kinds of things, we are basing all of this work on a previous approval from 2015. And what we're actually doing in the course of presenting this proposed work for you is bringing this, the building into compliance. And what I mean by that specifically is we will be moving from a previously approved coverage of 75.9% down to 74.3%. So we're bringing it down slightly, and we're bringing it under that 75% threshold. Sure. Sorry about that. Can you hear? Okay, great. Did you hear what I just said about the 70? Okay, great. Okay, cool. All right, so let me continue moving forward. So just for clarification, this is block 1146. This is lots 6, 7, and then 10 through 24. So if you refer to the screen, so this is a rendering that we've presented. Now I'm going to go back to this rendering as well as several others that really just captures the scope of the project. So really this is the portions of the property, the outdoor portions that front the beach. And what we're doing is we are proposing a new pool that we're demoing the old pool and jogging the pool location slightly to the west or left. So you'll see that it's a little bit tighter to that original wing. In addition, you'll see the indoor-outdoor extension, which is to your right, which is the blue-roofed low structure, and then an open grass area that exists between. Now, in terms of the site, this is the site of the hotel you see, so it's this kind of U-shaped site. And again, I read the block and lots already. Let me just see if I can get rid of this little message that came up on this laptop. Okay, so again, lots 6, 7, and 10 through 24. The assemblage of lots totals 108,000 square feet. And you can see that it's primarily the hotel that exists, and you can see the pool that's located now in the aerial. And so I'll remind you, if you can refer back in your mind to that image that I just showed, we're taking that pool and we're jogging it to the west or left, opening up the open green space between the pool, and then sort of formalizing that indoor-outdoor space of the restaurant. We are not, not looking to increase the capacity of the mercantile license, which is 146 seats, so that maintains, that stays. Moving forward, the zoning map, everyone I think knows that this is the C3 Hotel Motel District. There is a historic preservation overlay. We have had our initial meeting with the HPC back in November, end of November, right before Thanksgiving. Just some site photos. These were taken variably through the summer and fall. Everyone knows the project, but I'll just take you through a number of photos here on Beach Avenue. And so these are some of the existing photos. You see the pool and the patio, as well as the hotel frontage with the decks, and then some of those outdoor areas. Now, this is a slide that I shared to the HPC. This is broken down in terms of exterior scope. So you see the proposed work that we have here. And these are all right off the HPC checklist: windows, fences, swimming pool, patios, decks, sheds, or accessory structures, in this case, an accessory structure, addition, awnings, canopies, exterior door, roofing, siding, exterior lighting. This is our scope, but you can see the scope of work is limited to the exterior courtyard space fronting Beach Avenue with a modest roofed addition proposed adjacent to the existing restaurant, as well as some new pavement and plantings. The existing pool is relocated and new materials are proposed. So when I slide this forward, you see here that this is all of the manufacturers. This was shared with HPC, and I have images and graphics that will show exactly where these various specifications that you see before you are being applied. The swimming pool, which is the largest kind of feature here, you'll see here is gunite. It's a spray-on concrete in white. Now, In terms of our coverage analysis, I already mentioned that we are basing this work, and we have our engineer, Mr. Schaefer, will later testify to this a bit more, but we are proposing here, based on the approvals from 2015, which granted a coverage of 75.9%. We are proposing taking that down just modestly to 74.3%. There are no new deviations being sought for this application.
I'm sorry, my notes before said 75 going down to 64, but
No, 75 going back, 75.9 to 75.9 to 74.3.
okay, thank you.
Yep. This is the existing site plan. Everything grayed out is basically not in scope. This is the existing ground floor plan. So you see here what we've done is we've outlined in orange the existing restaurant and the indoor-outdoor patio attached to that, which we will be proposing to formalize. And then you can see the swimming pool, which is getting jogged again to the west or left. And you can see, talking about the impervious coverage, this is 82,017 square feet, or 75.9%.
Sir, are all of these taken directly from materials you've already submitted?
Yes.
Or some of this new material?
This is not new, this is just a PowerPoint of our existing drawings, so all of this is
I
just,
won't mark this as long as you're telling me everything is already in the packet.
Yep.
And that will be part of the.
They're part of the architectural
Yeah.
plans that we're
Thank you.
submitting.
I just wanted to mark each one.
sure, no worries, I understand. Thank you for bringing that up. Existing beach elevation, I'm going to continue moving this a little bit quickly. Existing partial elevation, so this is the area that we're working on, and I'm going to get to the proposed in a second. So here we are. So this is our proposed ground floor plan. Now, if you look at the left, you'll see our total square footage goes down slightly, 80,332 square feet, and that's where that 74.3% coverage, bringing this into compliances. You see that we have a number of different access points that are coded in red, blue, orange, and purple that have connections to the hotel, connections to the pool, connections to the restaurant, and so forth. And then you see our existing restaurant with our roofed addition. That roofed addition, which we're proposing as an indoor-outdoor structure, 2,352 feet, and that the number of seats remains 146 seats, and we're breaking that down for the purposes of the application into 79 indoor seating, 67 outdoor seating. And then this is a zoomed-in portion of our area, which you can see, same data on it. You get a little bit of a more clear view of the pool patio. I'm going to be going through these materials, as well as that proposed roofed addition of 2,352 square feet outlined in orange, adjacent to the restaurant. And you can see, we're not really talking about interior design so much here, but the idea here is that we're taking the bar that exists inside the restaurant, which is over here, and we're literally pulling it outside, so we will have an indoor-outdoor kind of component to that bar to serve, to serve these outdoor seats. So that's the idea with this. Moving forward, we have our materials here, and I have a material sample board here. Around, but for the purposes of the presentation, I'm just going to read for now from the PowerPoint. The primary material that we have ends up being a wood-finished tile by Porcelain Enosa, and you can see that here, as well as paving, which I will zoom in on in a second, as well as pebbles. And so when I zoom into the next slide, you see that. So we have the pool deck, which is the Porcelain Enosa Ascot tile, which is this kind of wood-finished tile that you see. And then we have on the path and dining area this kind of Hanover architectural product, a glacier white precast paver, which you see. Obviously grass. And then we have a series of pebbles that just kind of help refine the the walkways. And then we have some stamped concrete that exists in some other places in terms of the connections to the hotel. We do have a roof plan. That roof plan is showing a proposed pergola that is adjacent to the pool along the path. So this is this path that we have here that I think you saw from our plans, and that path has a connection out to the street, and it goes through this proposed extension, indoor-outdoor extension to our restaurant. The pergola is a wood material. The roof of the restaurant is a blue standing seam metal, and that matches the existing. And then you see our site lighting, where we have a series of pendants under our pergola. So our pergola is over here. So we have pendant lighting. We have strip lights around the pool itself. We have integrated bollards in the pool fencing. So that's a fence around the pool itself, as well as the beach procession, which is this area over here. And then in the indoor-outdoor addition, we have some wall sconces as well as some interior lighting, which are pendants and fans. And you can see those materials down here. And I will forward the slide so that it's a little bit larger. Forward the slide, so it's a little larger as well. Sorry, forwarding the slide. Give the computer a second to catch up here, I guess. Yeah. Let's see if this, there we go. Okay. So, and then you see the bollard lights, the hardscape light and so forth. And this was all, again, included in our package. In terms of elevations, there really isn't that much significant difference. And you see here that we basically just have that pool fence. I have a detail of that, which is an aluminum white fence that is over here, as well as our indoor-outdoor restaurant extension, which is that blue roofed area here. I'm just going to have to advance this sort of manually 1 second. Okay, great. And so this is a zoomed-in area, so you can see to the left the pool and the fencing, and to the right you see the restaurant addition. Some details for the indoor-outdoor restaurant extension. So there's that blue standing seam fence that I mentioned, and then we have a knotwood aluminum soffit system. So the underside of the roof is that kind of wood-finished aluminum, and then you see a sense of the folding doors and windows that we have, which are nice glass, big glass windows. Those are indoor, outdoor windows, so they're operable, so we can open this thing up, and the idea is to have it mostly opened for most of the seasons of the year, and then in the winter, this time of year, we can actually close it up. Interior dining sections, just to kind of show these. And then a section, so you see the pool, which has a maximum depth of 5 feet in terms of the site work. And then I just have a couple of details, and then I'll wrap. So this is the aluminum fence around the pool. This is a white finish aluminum fence. Have a white sample here I'm happy to pass around. We have a planter detail. The planter will have a concrete footing and then will be framed largely out of wood. Very tasteful, I think. And then we have the operable doors that I talked about for the indoor-outdoor restaurant addition, and those are aluminum. I have a black aluminum sample here, but these will be finished in white. And then I'll just finish up with a series of renderings that I hope captures this fairly modest scope that we have here. So this is a view from the grass between the indoor-outdoor restaurant extension and the pool, looking at the pool. All right, so looking west. And then we have a next view looking east. So this is our modest addition, where you can actually see that blue standing seam roof, and then the wood finish underneath with the operable doors. We think that's a really sharp view. And then finally, the view that I started with that captures the entire scope of work. And so from left to right, the relocated pool, the paver around the pool, the open green space in between, and then our modest indoor-outdoor restaurant extension, again, maintaining the mercantile license of 146 seats. We do think that this is a very nice series of additions to the hotel that will help, again, bring it a little bit more into compliance, increase the usability for the community and the patrons as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garber. But just one thing before we go any further. Mr. Chairman, I neglected to qualify Mr. Garber as an expert. Would you accept his testimony, recognize him as an expert licensed?
On behalf of the board, yes. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Garber, just a couple questions about improvement.
Sure.
What's existing there now in terms of the exterior deck, exterior seating? I see that there were some umbrellas used, and explain that to us and how what you're proposing here, if that's an improvement or not with the covered roof, and how that'll mitigate the noise or activities that are occurring within the facility.
Yeah, so in terms of the indoor-outdoor restaurant addition, because it is a fully roofed structure, right? It's an indoor-outdoor structure, but it has a proper roof on it, weather broken and so forth. It's going to contain, if there was any concern about noise pollution, it's largely going to contain patrons, right? So it's going to it's going to keep patrons within a contained area as opposed to being out on an open deck, right?
So a little bit better situation than was currently occurring on the site.
Correct.
A little bit now, you went to HPC, I assume that you received conceptual approval,
Yes.
and you'll be going back to HPC after this evening?
Yes, pending approval, yes.
And just so the board's aware that this was sort of a work of art in process, and that the applicant was responsive to the HPC concerns, if they had any. Did they express any worries or concerns about any aspect of the design?
No, as a matter of fact, HPC was quite complimentary to the work. They enjoyed the presentation. They thought it was clear. One thing did come up about how that lawn was going to be used. We did have some features in that lawn that have since been removed, just to clarify, any kind of concern with respect to that lawn.
Very good, thank you. I'll ask the board just to hold off any questions until we hear from everyone, unless somebody has a specific question related to the architectural plans.
I don't see any, so go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to call up Miss Junetta Dix.
Okay, I'm going to leave a graphic up so everyone can just kind of look at this thing. Thank you.
Ms. Dix, could you please briefly, your credentials on the record for the board?
Of course. Good evening. Junetta Dix, ACT Engineers. I'm the Director of Environmental Services. I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Marine Biology and a Master's of Environmental Management from Duke University. I've been an environmental consultant in the state of New Jersey for about 32 years. And my primary areas of expertise are CAFRA permits, wetlands, threatened endangered species, environmental impact statements. I was retained by the applicant to prepare the CAFRA permit application for this project.
Very good. With regard to the CAFRA application, maybe you could say a few words about that. But I know we have a waiver on the table this evening.
Do you want to qualify her as an expert in something?
Mr. Chairman,
Just make sure.
recognize Ms. Junetta Dix as an expert in environmental sciences.
I agree.
Thank you.
And waterfront development, I guess, is your,
Yeah, CAFRA environmental permitting.
it's going to go on a resolution. I want you to be the expert you want to be, so just tell me what you want it to be, that's all.
Environmental compliance, CAFRA permitting, it's fine.
You do environmental impact statements. Any need for one here, or is a waiver justified? Is there any negative environmental impact from the proposal?
Did we request a waiver? Because
No, we did request a waiver.
Because
but-
typically, CAFRA permit applications tend to be utilized in lieu of an environmental impact statement. So we asked for the waiver and submitted the CAFRA statement of compliance, which is similarly, an environmental impact statement. But in this case, there's there's not any existing natural vegetation that's being removed. There's not any potential wildlife habitat. There's not any proposed significant noise or light or air emissions. So in this case, an environmental impact statement, unlike if it was a forested, vacant piece of property where it would truly be, required, in this case, really not applicable.
Okay, any issues with CAFRA approval?
No, it's kind of silly that we need a CAFRA permit for this small development, but it is located within 150 feet of the beach or the dune, even though it's separated by the promenade and the road. But any development within 150 feet of a beach or a dune, including the reconstruction of a pool being shifted and the enclosure of the outdoor patio, triggers the need for a CAFRA permit.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dix. Anyone have any questions?
Doesn't look like it.
Thank you. Mr. Schaefer. Mr. Schaefer, your credentials, please.
I'm a licensed civil engineer and professional planner in the state of New Jersey and have been such, I believe, for 37 years, as well as before this board and the zoning board here in town several times.
Okay, Mr. Chairman?
Fine.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Schaefer, would you like to take us through for the engineering issues involved with this, current conditions, and what the proposal is, how to address them?
Certainly. So in creating the relocation of the pool and the addition of, and the relocation of seating under a roofed structure from an unroofed structure involved a little bit of grading and some stormwater management in the sense of collection. And the only thing that was really significant about that is Mr. Garber, the architect, requested that we not use gutters and downspouts for the roof structure. So it is surrounded by a stone, a decorative stone bed that the water will come off the roof and fall into perforated pipes and then into the existing stormwater management system that's on site. It's a very simple thing compared to what is there today.
And there's no variances required.
There's no new variances being created here. Everything fits within the confines that already exist. And as Mr. Garber indicated, since the building is a U-shaped, and you can see from the photograph, there are some homes around it. But being the U-shaped structure that it is facing the beach, all of the noise that is created, which obviously there will be some, will be directed towards the beach. And then complementing what's there today, because there is a pool there today, as well as outdoor seating. The outdoor seating is going to be covered by a roof. So in the worst case scenario during the summer, when the walls to that structure are open, there will still be less noise just by virtue of having a roofed structure over the dining area.
And contributing to that level of noise, we're still dealing with the same number of employees that was approved in 2015, which I believe was a maximum per shift of 28.
That's correct. So there's no change in the number of employees. There's no change in the number of parking spaces. There's no change in the number of bedrooms, and there's no change in the number of seats regarding restaurant.
So this is really just improved amenities for the guests that are staying in the establishment.
That is correct, yes.
So we heard Mr. Garber go over some coverage numbers.
Certainly.
If you could confirm that. And also, there's other calculations, specifically the accessory use area calculation.
That's correct. So back to your original, the impervious coverage will be reduced from the permitted 2015 75.9 to a proposed 74.3, just by virtue of removing some of the physical impervious amenities that are there now, a small deck, a bar, some other things, and then replacing the existing outdoor seating with a roofed structure. So the net result is a reduction in impervious coverage.
Can I ask, do we have this in the application, this chart that you're referring to? The
This
whole
chart-
page?
We have the site plan, which does cover all this, some of the aspects of the site coverage chart, and the the condition of the previously granted variances versus those today are slightly different. So this is an exhibit that
Okay,
doesn't
thank
quite
you.
exactly
Okay,
match.
one.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know.
And it's, and I-
Thank
that's a
you.
good question. I did have
Appreciate that.
conversation with Mr. Hurlis before, and he believed that these small changes in some of the coverage numbers and so forth could be addressed during compliance period.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna, that's an exhibit, so either get us a copy of that or leave that with Ms. Keenan or something.
We've certainly getting you a copy, yes.
And the total area, I believe the maximum is 25% of the gross floor area. We're under that substantially for accessory use.
For accessory use, the existing is 6.43%, and the addition of the work we're doing will take that to 8.35 out of the 25% permitted.
And just to go through the meeting the ordinance in terms of site plan requirements, the purposes of site plan review. Of course, this preserves existing natural resources. I think we've heard from Ms. Dix on that. Pedestrian circulation within the facility.
Right, the pedestrian circulation has been enhanced. I'm pointing to an impervious coverage in terms of a access path that accesses the structure of the building as well as the grass area proposed, making the circulation of pedestrians more convenient. And I should point out too, in terms of landscaping, I know we haven't come to landscaping yet, but there is a substantial planter structure around the front of the site along Beach Avenue. It is a wooden raised bed structure that's not going to be altered. It's going to remain.
And that is one of the areas of review, and I'm referring to section 417.1 was landscaping.
Yes.
And does this proposal ensure efficient, safe, and aesthetic land development?
Yes, it does, in particular by creating access to the sidewalk along Beach Avenue, which alone by ADA standards is required.
And I think we've touched on some of this already, but does it provide for compliance with appropriate design standards to ensure adequate light and air and proper building arrangements and minimum adverse effect on surrounding properties?
Yes, it does, and some of that can be measured in the reduction of impervious coverage and the increase in green space, as well as the site amenities that include better access for pedestrians to the site to and from the street.
And of course, you already indicated that the drainage and stormwater runoff is addressed.
Yes, it is addressed.
Okay, and of course, we have conceptual approval by the HPC.
Yes, that's correct.
So I believe Mr. Hurlis will go through his letter. Do we take any exception to anything in Mr. Hurlis's review letter?
No, we do not.
Okay, thank you.
Any question,
Board members, any
any
questions?
questions of the board, from board about the expert? I see a lot of paper shuffling. Not at this time.
Okay. That concludes the presentation, Mr. Chairman.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay. I see where you're expanding the bar, and that's coming out with the roof. From the doors, they're opening, and they're ceiling to floor, so people can walk out on all of that. There's no raised little wall.
Mr. Garber, would like to address that?
In other words, there's ceiling.
That's correct. I mean, so basically, the whole idea of the indoor-outdoor structure is weather permitting, which is a lot of the year. We will be able to open those doors. They're bifold doors, so they'll just be big openings with the doors folded, and you can just move in and out seamlessly.
Okay. And that piece of the puzzle, from there to the motel rooms, I'm seeing it's like a black, your orange is there, and then going back to the motel, there's black. That is not, there was a wording used that I can't find right now, a staging area. What was that referring to?
Let me put the site plan up here very quickly, and because I think it'll be clear as well. So we have a couple of places where we need to make connections back to the existing hotel. And so that area that you talk about, which just happens in Mr. Schaefer's, because of the shadow of the image is dark, but you can see here, basically what we have is, and let me see if I can get the mouse up onto the screen here. We have, so this is the indoor-outdoor restaurant extension. We have a slight green space back here, and then we have our paved area here, and then we have a planter that runs along here as a kind of buffer. So we're controlling the access points from the parking area to be here and over by the pool here. So there's only 2 access points.
Okay, that clears it up for me, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Dennis, go ahead.
You mentioned your mercantile license has 100 and, what's the number?
46.
146. Is that the existing mercantile license, or did you use that for this year's license?
It's existing. It's existing.
It's always been, so you're.
Correct.
So you're expanding the restaurant seating space, but the same number of seats in that restaurant?
Correct. And I don't even, we're not expanding it. What we're really doing is kind of formally clarifying it, if I may, because I think right now there's a kind of deck outside. The mercantile license allows for 146 seats, so we're not suggesting it's going to be any more than that. But what we're doing, this opportunity is we are formalizing the number of seats inside and outside. There's some flexibility in there, but in other words, how the restaurant indoors and outdoors will be used will be a little bit more consistent. And
So the original site plan of that addition, how many seats did that have in that restaurant?
it wasn't really pre-clarified. It was just 146, and so there was the restaurant shown and then a patio. What we're doing is we're trying to formally
Okay.
clarify that a little bit more.
By expanding that bar, you're going from how many seats at the bar to how many seats?
So let me just forward my screen here. Oop. So you can see, if I zoom in here, that we are showing, I guess it's not super clear here, but I think we're showing approximately 12, 14 seats, something like that, that will be here, and there will be some capacity from the bar that would be relocated or redistributed to out here, right? So the idea isn't that, the idea is to extend the bar extension, and I'm going to go back because
It's not adding seats?
the idea is that it's not adding seats. It's not adding seats.
So let me clarify that 1 second, please.
Sir, you got to step to a mic if you're going to speak.
Sure.
So we have we're licensed for 146, and when the reality is in season you use all 146. In the wintertime, when you rely on some of that being allocated to the outside area, you can't utilize that. So that's what we're trying to define everything with the seats and the counts, both inside and outside.
Can you state your name?
George Andy. Because you end up losing a lot during inclement weather. Everyone goes inside, and you don't get to use all 146. It's dramatically dropped down.
Any other questions from the board? Nope. Craig, you want to give your report, please?
Certainly. This is a summary of my January 31st, 2023 review memorandum for this application. The project is located in the C3 Hotel Motel District. We had some questions and conversations about how it was previously approved and what's happening now. Based on my prior review of the last site plan approval, we approved it as a 146-seat restaurant/cocktail lounge with the composition of 110 seats indoor with 36 outdoor patio seats. And that was, in addition, there was a total of 162 motel units. If you remember, there were they essentially demolished the old restaurant, reconstructed that and had units above that. So that was the last approval. They're now proposing, and what the plans show, is a total of 79 outdoor seats and 79 indoor seats and 67 outdoor seats are indicated on the plans. However, I think they want the flexibility to be able to use them so that they don't exceed a total of 146 total seats. So whether the seats are inside, outside, regardless, there's not to exceed 146. So
And that includes the bar.
that includes the bar. So,
Can I clarify something you just said, if
Sure.
if I may? When that site plan was approved, was a waiver granted for parking requirements? not-
variance granted for parking, yes.
They
I
were,
was gonna, I'll highlight that.
okay.
Yes. Okay. So that's what exists and what is proposed, so there's no proposed increase in the number of units or in the number of restaurant or lounge seats. I'll roll into my completeness review, and the item number 1 on the general requirements for all applications, they provided the application forms. However, when this was initially submitted, they included lots 8 and 9, and that's a lot, those 2 lots are located on New Jersey Avenue, and it's known as the Lemaire Beach House at 1318 New Jersey. That is they've since taken that out of the plan set, so that's no longer proposed as being included in the site plan. However, some of the application documents still refer to that. So I just want to make sure the record's clear that anytime they refer to that, that's been taken out of the application. Okay. Under the details required for C and D variances, item 4, 27, 28, 32, I all supported the waivers that were requested based on the nature of this application and the scope. It's a very limited scope. It's in the U of the existing building footprint. None of that was necessary to review and comprehensively review the application, so I supported waivers from that. Under the details required for preliminary site plan approval, under items 3J, V, and we talked about the environmental impact statement. You heard from Janetta Dix. She indicated that she provided the CAFR compliance statement. The board has typically accepted that in lieu of the requirements of the EIS and those, the checklist for that EIS. So we did support that waiver, along with the waiver from item W, Y. So those are all of the waivers that were requested. We supported that and recommended deeming the application complete. With regards to the zoning requirements, so all of these are permitted uses, and the restaurant use is permitted so long as it's under the 25% threshold, 25% total area floor area threshold. And you've heard testimony from Mr. Schaefer indicating, I think they're at 8.35%.
Proposed?
Proposed. Is that what, your numbers are a little different than mine. 835, okay, that's what I jotted down. Okay, I indicate some other calculations in there. I think they've since modified the plan, and I also took a conservative look at it because you heard testimony indicating that they initially came in with some furniture and usage of that lawn area, but once they appeared before the HPC, they decided to take that out. So that's no longer contemplated and proposed. But anyway, they're under the 25% threshold, therefore it's a permitted accessory use. The zoning table on page 4 and 5 of my report reflect the last approval because they're not changing it and only updated it where, with regards to lot coverage, they're conforming. They're at 74.3% proposed, where 75% is the maximum. All of the other things that are non-conforming were granted as variances the last time we granted a site plan approval for these improvements. And those variances are highlighted on page 5 of 6. Setbacks for, variances for building setbacks on Pittsburgh and Beach were granted for the building height, for the parking size, for the parking number of spaces, and I'll detail that in a second, parking within the setbacks, and the building setbacks along Pittsburgh, as well as for freestanding and attached signage, both number and area. So those were the variances that were dealt with last time. None of this changes any of those. There's no other variances that are necessary or have been requested. When we have these changes, we always take a good hard look at the parking. And so there's three components of the parking requirements that are as part of this site. There's one space per sleeping unit. There's 162 units. There's one space per 4 restaurant seats, and we're still existing and proposed at 146 seats. And then the number of employees. The last time they told us there was 28 employees for this entire site. They've indicated that there's no additional employees. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So therefore, the variance that was granted last time is still valid because the composition of the parking requirements has not changed. Okay? Are there any questions with that?
The employee allotment of 28, does that include everybody who works in the hotel and in the restaurant?
You're going back to past testimony. We approved it based on them indicating there were 28 employees. So if there's a question with the specifics of that composition, I think you should ask the applicant that question.
Okay. What's the number of employees? 28, does that include the hotel and the restaurant?
The 2015 approvals, where Mr. Hurlis is taking this information from, and we're taking it from, and also what was confirmed with the applicant that nothing has changed. There was 2 shifts. First shift, full-time employees, hotel 6, restaurant 4, part-time employees, hotel 12, restaurant 6. Total for hotel is 18, total for restaurant is 10. That totals 28. The second shift, full-time in the hotel 4, restaurant 4, part-time in the hotel 4, restaurant 12. Total for the hotel 10, total for the restaurant 16, total 26. So the maximum amount of employees at any one time on the site, total hotel and restaurant, is 28, and that's where that 28 number comes from.
Okay.
Can we just get someone on your team to just testify that that is still true?
Yes, that is, nothing's changed.
You got to go to a microphone. Sure. I just, when you have your record, I want you to say it and get it on there.
Yes, George Andy here. Nothing's changed since 2015. We remain, the number remains the same.
Thank you.
Mr. Galzunas, they were the application materials from the 2015?
I just read from the plan from 2015.
Thank you. Okay.
From the plan or what did you read from? I thought
The
you were reading
2015 approved site plan,
Approved. Thank you, sir.
yes.
Okay. So that's a summary of all of the past variances that were granted. There's no, in my opinion, there's no additional variances that are necessary. So we're dealing with a site plan application, amended site plan application for both preliminary and final. We can grant both of those if the board finds that their testimony is satisfactory. I'll move on to my general review comments. Item 1 is our standard condition that they have to comply with Chapter 258, which is the flood damage protection for new construction. Item number 2, I just asked them to incorporate the parking calculations onto the plan so that there's a record of exactly what this plan set requires. 3 is our standard condition whenever we have pools, is that pool safety fencing is proposed in accordance with Section 525-61A. Items 4 and 5 deal with their initial submission, and they indicated that there was going to be a seating area between the pool and the proposed roofed patio, and there were some fire pits in there. They've since removed that, and happy to hear that HPC is getting involved early in the process and letting them know, and the applicant has incorporated and removed that stuff from their plans. Item 6 is my review of the proposed stormwater design. It is not major development. There's no additional impervious being proposed here. However, there is some grading changes and rooftop changes that Mr. Andy incorporated and reconfigured the stormwater system to handle, and I did support that design, and I found it acceptable. All of the remainder of these are standard conditions that we affix to normal site plan applications, replacing the sidewalk to the satisfaction of the board engineer. Number 8 is the furnishing the required performance guarantee and inspection escrows. 9 is tying the release of those and the certificate of occupancy to a satisfactory inspection. 10 is compliance with the Cape May Fire Department, Police Department, Public Works Department, Environmental Commission, and Shade Tree Commission. And we got reports from the Fire Department, which approved it. The Police Department approved it. Cape May City Public Works Department had no comment. Shade Tree Commission approved with the following condition that would encourage preservation and retention of the white pine and holly trees existing on the site. And I think you've indicated that all of those planters are going to remain and not be disturbed.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So I don't think that there's any issue with compliance with that. 11 is compliance with all other state, county, and local approvals. Ms. Dix indicated that indeed New Jersey DEP CAFR approval is required, so we will need evidence of that approval. 12 is, this is located in a historic district, so we will need evidence of final HPC approval. Item 13 is our standard condition that they have to comply with any and all applicable affordable housing requirements at the time of approval or issuance of building permits. And finally, if the board grants favorable approval, they're required to submit the requisite number of compliance plans to the board engineer for review. And that's a summary of my report. I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
I have a question to the Andes and to these people. So I like this schematic that's up there now. Originally, there was 40 feet space that's now going to about 11.7 feet, moving the pool over, and that's creating green space. There's a total of 28 employees on shift at any one time. Is that space going to be utilized for special events that will incorporate or need additional employees at any one time?
No, that area is really just what it is, and that is an open green space that could be utilized by guests to put a beach towel on or games for kids, things of that nature.
Okay, so it won't be like outdoor weddings or special events that would, I'm asking if they will need additional employees.
No, there's no plan to utilize that area for that purpose.
Okay.
Any other questions by the board? I suppose we should open it up to the public. I don't think any public members are here, so that's closed. Go ahead.
Okay, this is an application for site plan, preliminary and final site plan approval. There's, this project previously had a bunch of variances. The testimony is that nothing they are doing would trigger new variances. So they would carry through into this amended site plan. It's not clear to me whether we're actually granting the variances again. I think we're just concluding that they're not doing anything that would alter their entitlement to those variances, so that the site plan doesn't affect anything that would trigger a variance. That's, now, you've heard the testimony, so you're to accept that testimony. If you were to not accept that testimony, then I guess theoretically, they might need a variance for something, but the testimony is relatively uncontroverted by anyone. No one spoke against it. So the record right now reflects what they said. So the motion I would recommend being made is a motion to grant preliminary and final site plan approval without new variances, but the variances previously granted continuing, subject to the waivers and conditions as outlined by the board engineer.
Anyone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion based on the attorney's recommendations.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Lundholm, seconded by Mr. Gargone. Mr. Belasco?
Yes.
Mr. Gargone?
Yes.
Councilmember Yeager?
Yes.
Mrs. Reed?
Yes.
Mr. Crowley?
Yes.
Mr. Lundholm?
Yes.
Mr. Malloy,
Yes.
Mr. Paducis,
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members.
Thank you, Kazunas. Professionals, good job. Move through that nicely.
Anybody else have anything for the good of the meeting, good of the board, whatever we have? Anybody?
Motion to adjourn?
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Good night.